scale you're drawing. That's the height of the person. I'll start by giving that person some sort of a head shape. I'll give that person somewhat of a collar. I kind of figure out a shoulder width, bring down like that to a waistline, and then down to the legs. Sometimes we'll separate those legs. If I'm going to use this actually sketch, or this person in the sketch, I may put their feet like this one coming towards you and this one sideways. Everybody see that? Come back up. This arm might come down and just sort of hang. This one might fall behind their side but kick out. So that's about it, you know, for people. Now I might refine it just slightly in my drawings, but in most of my stuff, that's about it. And I may come back with some hair, maybe just a line like that to indicate an eye or something like that, and maybe just a little bit darkening here or there, maybe a couple of buttons. But that's about it. And then if I wanted to work that into a drawing of some sort, I might come back and add that to the pants. But that's about as far as I go. Now, if you break that out, if you break that person out, you can say, okay, there's the head zone. Here's sort of the waist zone and the leg zone. And if you just sort of practice with, okay, you know, there's somewhat of a oval shaped head, hairline, eye, and then it can be that type of a neckline. If it's a woman, their waist is going to be usually a little bit narrower. They have more of this V-shaped upper torso, and depending on whether, I can tell you, you either put pants on them or a long skirt because it's just easier than trying to figure out how to make their legs look really good. That's my experience. And this is one of the things I told Steele is that if the guy's arms hang mostly straight down, a lot of times women's arms tend to kind of elbow in. And you know, we're going to put some hair on her too. And normally I almost, you know, just to accentuate, if somebody has some sort of a, you know, question as to whether I'm drawing a man or a woman, and I know this is kind of a stereotype, but I will give her a purse or something like that. So questions, where do people have the most challenge with drawing people? Notice that when I'm trying to draw this guy that's standing here, I just get a head shape, get the shoulders going, and notice that I'm not necessarily always completing those lines. And I'm not trying to draw this guy by doing little short lines like that. These are just simple lines. And if he's walking, I usually give him half of a leg and he's bending at the knee, and then you can just kind of draw his foot. And then if it's like he's really walking, this arm is going to be forward. When this leg is coming forward, this one's going to be back when this one's back. So it's usually always better in a drawing to give people a little bit, even that much movement helps a drawing, in my opinion. When they're just kind of standing static, it doesn't help. But if you can show them a little bit of movement, you can show them a little bit off kilter versus vertical, I think that helps as well. Children, I usually make them a little chunkier looking. So let's say there's a little boy here with his mom. He's a little bit chunkier, holding her hand, trying to get away is usually how I usually put him on a, he's trying to get away too. And, you know, you can put a ball cap on him. So what kind of questions do you have as long as we're just talking about people here?
Del, I think mine is proportions of the 3 different body types. So what rule of thumb do you use for the proportion of the head versus, you know, the other pieces of the body? You kind of have it there, but can you walk through that?
Yeah, so if you look at kind of that head zone, it's a little bit less than half of that torso, and the torso is usually a little bit less than the legs. So I don't know if you went 4, 3, 1. If you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can go 1, 2, 3, and you can go 1. That would be the basic proportion that I would think. Width-wise, you know, that head the head that I'm showing is probably almost a third of the shoulders, maybe not quite. So these people, this is the easiest way to draw people, I think, is you're looking at them, they actually have sort of a face. I think they're much harder to draw from behind. You almost have to kind of give them a collar, and their arms are a little bit more challenging. You almost have to give them a little bit of shape to the rear end if they're back in this area.
Dell, I went on Google, and I kind of got into, like, a couple weeks back, just drawing a bunch of people, and I got into Google and I just Googled woman walking or old couple walking or whatever, and tried to, like, figure out the proportion of the people. And, you know, people have weird proportions, but I kind of figure it doesn't really make any difference if you get it right. I think the legs are always longer than the torso.
Yep.
And if you get that right, and you kind of make everything kind of gestural and loose, you can make a pretty good person pretty easy.
I think so too. And actually, I think people from the side are actually sometimes a little bit more interesting to draw, because this guy can be here. He might have his arms folded. You know, you can make him a little bit different shape. I think you can give more character to people when you have them at a side view or something like that, or maybe at just a slightly cocked view versus straight on. This guy, so I like that guy much better than the guy from the back. I think this guy works because he's not just standing straight like this guy is. And when you're showing people walking, let's say, I usually have their head slightly down. They're looking that way. Draw one hand out here and one doing that. Again, waistline. I'll usually throw one leg out like this. That foot could be slightly up, and then I'll bend that one back like that. So again, I think this guy, that kind of a person is successful, a moving, walking person, or one that's, you can tell that's moving, but they're a little bit off kilter.
Hey, Dell, is there any other hints for drawing arms? I can never get the arms to look right. I don't know why. Is there any other hints for that?
Well, you know, here's the thing. You can see the reason I draw them like this is I'm trying not to put too much detail into that. I mean, if I really want to now make that person, you know, now I have to look at, okay, really, where is the shoulder going? Do I put a long sleeve shirt on that person? Do I do this sort of a thing? Do I actually try and draw that hand? I think they're more successful when you put about that much detail into the drawing. And for the most part, people, in my opinion, should never be at the extreme forefront of a drawing. They're always sort of in the middle ground or background of a drawing. When you start putting people way up in the foreground of a drawing, all of a sudden all that attention and stuff focuses on the person, and you have to make them look really real. It takes forever.